Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Engineering and Technology, SOET, Master of Science, Renewable Energy and Environment, MSc RWEE. Semester 2, MEV 003 Environmental Law and Management. Block 1 Environmental Acts, Laws and Policies. Unit 2 National Environmental Legislation and Programs -1.
0 Introduction. Global environmental issues are examined under the subject of international environmental law. Debates over environmental issues are based on the principles of international law, numerous international agreements and declarations. International environmental law is not a separate branch of law, but a part of the international law which governs relations between states. Environmental international law has evolved from a number of sources. The most important source is the customary international law. Customary international laws are the norms followed by most countries as a matter of custom. They are responsible for the common thread that binds all countries. Other sources of the international law include general principles of law recognized by civilized nations. International law is also evolved from subsidiary sources such as decisions of courts and tribunals and writing of jurists. Numerous legally binding international agreements cover a wide range of environmental issues. They cover different aspects like terrestrial, marine, atmosphere to biodiversity protection. Most of the international environmental agreements are generally multilateral. Protocols are subsidiary agreements that are based on the primary treaty. Protocols are available in various subsets of international law. These find practical applicabilities in the issues relating to environment. They enable the incorporation of recent scientific advances. Kyoto Protocol is one of the most popular protocols in international environmental law. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change follows the Kyoto Protocol. Some important conferences like the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment, 1972, United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, 1992, and World Summit on Sustainable Development, 2002, have had tremendous impacts. International organizations with well-defined roles are also created due to multilateral environmental agreements. These bodies are responsible for implementing the agreement. Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, CITES, and the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, are the products of such agreements. The opinions of international courts and tribunals provide the background for international environmental law. The declarations, codes, guidelines are considered as soft law. They are not binding. Soft laws result because of the following reasons: 1. Lack of consensus in arriving at a universal law, 2. Lack of one supreme body for making law, and 3. Diverse cultures, religion, etc. However, the soft laws facilitate collective action by states when required, without restricting their freedom of action. 1.1 Objectives. After reading this unit, you should be able to comprehend the need for international environmental law, understand the implications of Stockholm Conference, Rio Conference and Johannesburg Treaty, and explain some other important international environmental legislations. 1.2 Stockholm Conference. The idea of holding a United Nations conference centered on human interactions with the environment is attributed to the proposal of Sweden in the United Nations Economic and Social Council in the year 1968. After the idea got support from the ECOSOC, the General Assembly decided in 1969 to hold the conference in 1972. The General Assembly proposed that the conference should result in stimulating and providing guidelines for action by national, government, and international organizations. Extensive background work by 115 governments for the conference lasted for about 4 years. Stockholm Sweden hosted the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment in June 1972. It was the first comprehensive conference on international environmental issues with the backing of the UN. This event marked a major milestone in international environmental politics. 1.2.1 Positive outcomes. The conference agreed upon the following: 1. A declaration about environment and development, 26 principles, 2. And clear-cut plan of action, 109 recommendations, and 3. Resolutions relating to the financial and institutional arrangements. A. The Stockholm Resolution supported the pre-Stockholm treaties and conventions relating to the marine pollution, transboundary air pollution, endangered species. B. Action plan dealing with creation of institutions and cooperation amongst already existing ones. It also gave an action plan for the international community. C. The conference gave 26 principles, which include fundamental right to freedom, equality, and adequate conditions of life in an environment of equality that permits a life of dignity and well-being, intergenerational equity, maintenance, restoration, and improvement of renewable resources, appeal to the people to manage the environment so as to avoid irreversible damage to the ecosystem. Recognition of the relationship between economic, social, and environmental development. Encouraging development through transfer of technology and financial aid, that the states should cooperate in developing international environmental law. The states should adopt and implement suitable environmental standards. The international organizations should coordinate in such activities that facilitate better environmental management. The UN General Assembly considered the report submitted by the Stockholm Conference. The recommendations were considered in the development of environment-related standards and activities at all levels, regional, national, and global level. It led to the development of a precursor to the formation of an international environmental organization through the United Nations Environment Programme. This directed the future course of the environmental policies in Europe. However, the Stockholm Conference did not result in the adoption of binding legal obligations for the state parties. 1.3 Rio Conference. The Rio Conference was held 20 years after the first International Conference on Environmental Issues at Stockholm. The main objective of the Rio Conference was to stop environmental degradation of the planet. Following the Stockholm Conference, UN in the year 1983 set up a Commission on Environmental and Development led by Brundtland from Norway. The Commission suggested the concept of sustainable development. This is defined as the development which meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. Based on the Brundtland Report, 1987, the UN General Assembly called for the Convention of UNCED, United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. UNCED was held at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in June 1992, represented by 172 governments. Several representatives of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, attended. It focused on balancing development that supports socio-economic development and avoids damage to the environment. It also stressed on the need to bring about global partnership to tackle the issues. 1.3.1 Issues covered. The issues addressed in the Rio Conference include the following: comprehensive study of production patterns, which include toxic components such as lead in gasoline, toxic wastes including radioactive chemicals, the use of other sources of energy replacing fossil fuels, promoting the use of public transportation systems. This will reduce vehicular emissions, congestion in cities, and the associated health risks. The increasing demands and diminishing water availability. The UNCED adopted 3 important non-binding instruments in the forms of Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, Agenda 21, Forest Principles. The Rio Declaration on Environment and Development contains 27 principles. The unique feature was that it made efforts to maintain balance of priorities of the developed and developing countries. It also gave guidelines regarding principles for sustainable development. Though this is a form of soft law, the legal implications is immense as a large number of treaties, protocols, regulations and judicial decisions were based on this. Even the International Court of Justice has referred to it in a number of cases. The adoption of forestry principles led to the revision of the International Timber Trade Agreement in 1994. This was the first legal consensus reached on forests. It posed responsibility on the developed countries through reforestation and forest conservation. At the same time, they were given the liberty to develop the forests depending on their socio-economic needs. 1.3.2 Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is a dynamic program and a voluntary action plan. It is called so because it is a comprehensive blueprint for local, national, regional, and global actions. The proposed actions will enable the transition to sustainable development in the 21st century. It was adopted by more than 178 governments at the Rio Conference. It comprises of 40 chapters and hundreds of program areas. Agenda 21 lays down the ways and means in the reduction of wasteful and inefficient consumption patterns. It recognized the need of developed countries like extending financial support and aiding technology transfer to developing countries to achieve sustainable development. 1.3.3 Important agreements. Some legally binding agreements, Rio Convention, came into force. They are given below. Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, Convention on Biological Diversity. One major outcome of the summit was an agreement on the Climate Change Convention. This resulted in the formulation of Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement. Another agreement was not to carry out any activities on the lands of indigenous peoples that would cause environmental degradation or that would be culturally inappropriate. The Convention on Biological Diversity was signed at the Earth Summit. It emphasized the protection of natural ecoregions and avoiding economically unsustainable growth. Despite its success, many of the agreements made in Rio, such as fighting poverty and cleaning up our environment, are yet to be accomplished. 1.4 Johannesburg Treaty. The World Summit on Sustainable Development, also referred to as the Earth Summit, was held at Johannesburg, South Africa from 26 August to 4 September 2002. The United Nations convened the summit to discuss sustainable development. The summit brought together several leaders from business and non-governmental organizations. It was held 10 years after the first Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro. The goal of WSSD was to hold a 10-year review of the 1992 UNCED to reinvigorate global commitment to sustainable development. It was therefore also informally nicknamed Rio 10. The main outcome of the summit was the Johannesburg Declaration and the WSSD Plan of Implementation. A number of partnerships were launched to help implement commitments made at WSSD. 1.4.1 Plan of Implementation. It is conceived as a framework to implement the sustainable developments originally agreed at UNCED in 1992. The plan contains chapters on the following: 2. Poverty eradication, 2. Consumption and production, 3. The natural resource base, 4. Health, we, small island developing states, 6. Africa, 7. Other regional initiatives, 8. Means of implementation, and 9. Institutional framework. The plan of implementation contains over 30 targets, the majority of which have been established in the Millennium Declaration. Some of the most significant targets include: I. To halve the number of the world's poor living on less than $1 a day, 2015, 2. Significantly improve the lives of at least 100 million slum dwellers by 2020. 3. To halve the proportion of people without safe drinking water by 2015. 4. To halve the proportion of people without access to sanitation by 2015. We cease destructive fishing practices and establish representative marine protective areas and networks by 2012. 6. Maintain or restore fish stocks to levels that can be sustainable harvested by not later than 2015. 7. Phase out chemicals with detrimental health impacts by 2020. And 8. Significantly reduce biodiversity loss by 2010. 1.4.2 Johannesburg Declaration on Sustainable Development. It did not set out international principles which could be invoked in legal or political contexts. It was a general philosophical contextualization for the more detailed commitments in the plan of implementation. It reaffirms political commitment to sustainable development and building a humane, equitable, and caring global society. It highlights the integration of economic development, social development, and environmental protection, the three pillars of sustainable development. It emphasizes the need to eradicate poverty, change production and consumption patterns, and protect and manage the natural resource base. The declaration reaffirms the Millennium Development Goals and welcomes decision taken at WSSD on targets, timetables and partnerships to improve access to clean water, sanitation, energy, healthcare, and food, and to protect biodiversity. It underscores the need for access by developing countries to financial resources, for opening of markets and the transfer of technology, and for the private sector to enforce accountability. It also addresses issues like armed conflict, terrorism, intolerance, combating communicable and chronic diseases. Finally, the declaration reaffirms all countries' commitment to the UN Charter and international law, calls for strengthening multilateralism and pledges to an inclusive process involving all groups. Voluntary partnerships. Partnership programs were launched in the form of voluntary agreements between one or more countries, international institutions, private sector, and or non-governmental organizations. More than 300 such partnerships were launched at the summit, including 32 energy initiatives, 21 major water programs for biodiversity and ecosystem management, 1.5 some legislations of international importance. Let us now learn about some more legislations of international importance. They include the following. 1.5.1 cites the increase in the trade in life forms and their products for commercial purposes beyond frontiers has been one major cause for the decline in the biodiversity. In order to prevent this, in the year 1973, cites the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora was convened. This multilateral treaty protects endangered plants and animals. This treaty was drafted as an outcome of the deliberations of the meeting of members of the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, in 1963. The convention was opened for signature in 1973. CITES came into existence on 1 July 1975. The primary objective was to curb the international trade in specimens of wild animals and plants in order to protect the survival of the species in the wild. Participation by member states to join this treaty is voluntary. Those nations that have agreed to be bound by the convention are known as parties. The parties to CITES are collectively referred to as the Conference of the Parties. They meet every 2 or 3 years to review the implementation. CITES is also attended by agencies of the UN, NGOs working in the relevant areas. CITES is legally binding on the parties but does not replace the existing national laws. It provides broad guidelines and the nations must design their own domestic laws to implement CITES. CITES Secretariat is administered by UNEP and is located at Geneva, Switzerland, and all activities relating to the convention are coordinated. Regulation of trade, CITES functions by regulating international trade in specimens of some identified species. Licensing system is followed for all import, export, re-exports covered by the convention. Each party to the convention must designate one or more management authorities of administering the licensing system, Article 9 of the convention. Further, scientific authorities are to play advisory role on the effects of trade on the status of CITES listed species. Limitations: CITES focuses on trade at the species level. Unfortunately, it does not deal with ecosystem approaches to conservation or destruction of habitat. CITES only protects charismatic species, megafauna, or animals with high market value. CITES only controls their trade. It does nothing to hunting or killing of animals. 1.5.2 Vienna Convention. The ozone layer is that layer of the stratosphere which protects the living beings on the earth from the harmful effects of ultraviolet rays from the sun, the widespread use and their release into the atmosphere of ozone-depleting compounds have increased levels of ultraviolet rays reaching the earth. In the Vienna Conference, 1985, the Vienna Convention for the Protection of the Ozone Layer was agreed upon. It is a multilateral environmental agreement and came into force in 1988. It is one of the most successful environmental treaties ratified by 197 states as well as the European Union. The objectives of the convention were to facilitate cooperation by research and information exchange on the effects of human activities on the ozone layer. It also aimed to adopt legislative or administrative measures against activities likely to have adverse effects on the ozone layer. It is the basis for international efforts to save the ozone layer. CFCs are the main chemical agents responsible for ozone depletion. This treaty does not include legally binding reduction goals regarding the use of CFCs. 1.5.3 Montreal Protocol. The Montreal Protocol on Substances that Deplete the Ozone Layer, a protocol to the Vienna Convention for the Protection of the Ozone Layer, is an international treaty for the protection of the ozone layer. Its objectives include phasing out the production of ozone-depleting substances. It was agreed on 16 September 1987. It entered into force on 1 January 1989, followed by a first meeting in Helsinki, May 1989. Since then, it has undergone several revisions. It aims at the reduction in the production of CFC substance itself and not just emission of the CFCs. The parties are expected to reduce their consumption and production of CFC to the 1986 level, which is considered to be the base year. The protocol takes into consideration the different position of the developed and the developing countries. It has laid obligations on them where the phasing out time is different. It requires phasing out all consumptions or production of most of the substances that deplete the ozone layer by January 1996. By the developed countries and the consumption of HCFC to be frozen in 1996 and to be completely phased out by 2030. The complete elimination time that is fixed for the developing countries, unlike the developed countries, is the year 2010, and the elimination period for hydrochlorofluorocarbons, HCFCs, is 2040. Due to its universal acceptance, it is considered an environmental success story in the field of international cooperation. 1.5.4 Rotterdam Convention. The Rotterdam Convention, formerly the Rotterdam Convention on the Prior Informed Consent Procedure for Certain Hazardous Chemicals and Pesticides in International Trade, is a multilateral treaty to promote shared responsibilities in relation to importation of hazardous chemicals. The convention was adopted in the year 1988. The governments thought that here was a need to strengthen the procedure of acquiring prior consent for transboundary movement of certain hazardous substances to make it legally binding. It seeks to ensure that the hazardous chemicals are managed in an environmentally sound manner. The Convention also provides space for information exchange. The Convention empowers the national governments to decide on the entry of such hazardous chemicals into their country. The Convention promotes open exchange of information. It calls on exporters of hazardous chemicals to use proper labeling, include directions on safe handling, and educate purchasers of any known restrictions or bans. Signatory nations can decide whether to allow or ban the importation of chemicals listed in the treaty, and exporting countries are obliged to make sure that producers within their jurisdiction comply. 1.5.5 Stockholm Convention on POP. Another important international environmental treaty is the Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants signed in 2001. The objective of this treaty is to eliminate or restrict the production and use of persistent organic pollutants, POPs, and became effective from May 2004. This treaty is the first international legal instrument to focus attention on the dangers of persistent organic pollutants. These chemicals that are commonly used as pesticides in agriculture and to control insects causing diseases like malaria. The United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, initiated for global action to be taken on POPs in 1995. POPs are chemicals that remain in the environment and have bioaccumulating properties in the food chains. They also cause toxicity to human health and the environment. The Intergovernmental Forum on Chemical Safety and the International Programme on Chemical Safety assessed the impact of 12 POPs, popularly known as the Dirty Dozen. The parties agreed to phase out 9 of the Dirty Dozen chemicals. They decided to use DDT for malaria control and reduce inadvertent production of dioxins and furans. Parties to the convention have agreed to a procedure by which persistent toxic chemicals can be reviewed and added to the convention, provided they meet certain criteria for persistence and transboundary threat. The main feature of the convention is that the developed countries provide new and additional financial resources and measures to eliminate production and use of intentionally produced POPs. They are also required to eliminate unintentionally produced POPs wherever possible and handle POPs wastes in an eco-friendly way. Precaution is exercised throughout the Stockholm Convention with specific references in the preamble. The objective and the provision on identifying new POPs. 1.5.6 Basel Convention, the international treaty regarding the control of transboundary movements of hazardous wastes and their disposal is known as the Basel Convention. The primary objective is to reduce the movements of hazardous waste between nations. Further, it specifically prevents the movement of hazardous wastes from developed to the lesser developed countries. This treaty does not include the movement of radioactive waste. This convention also aims to reduce the amount and toxicity of waste generation to ensure their safe disposal close to the source of generation. The convention also aims to help in the safe disposal of the hazardous and other wastes generated by the lesser developed countries. The convention was opened for signature on 22 March 1989 and entered into force on 5 May 1992. The key objectives of the convention are as follows: I. Reduce transboundary movements of hazardous wastes and environmentally sound management of hazardous waste. 2. Provide for the treatment and disposal of hazardous wastes as close as possible to their sources of generation. 3. Minimize generation of hazardous wastes in terms of quantity and hazards. The Basel Ban, adopted in 1994 by certain countries, bars shipments of hazardous waste from developed countries to less developed countries. 1.5.7 Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety to the Convention on Biological Diversity is an international agreement on biosafety. It is a supplement to the Convention on Biological Diversity effective since 2003. This protocol aims to protect biodiversity from the potential threats resulting from genetically modified organisms. The protocol outlines that precautionary principles should be applied for products that result from modern biotechnology. It permits developing countries to balance public health against economic benefits. In case there is insufficient scientific evidence regarding product safety, it allows countries to ban imports of genetically modified organisms. It also requires exporters to label the shipments containing genetically altered commodities. This protocol is in accordance with the precautionary approach contained in Principle 15 of the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development. The objective of the protocol is to ensure an adequate level of protection for the safe transfer, handling, and use of living modified organisms that may have adverse effects on the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity. They also take into account human health risks, specifically focusing on transboundary movements. The protocol defines a living modified organism as any living organism that possesses a novel combination of genetic material obtained through the use of modern biotechnology. Living organism means any biological entity capable of transferring or replicating genetic material. Modern biotechnology is defined in the protocol to mean the application of in vitro nucleic acid techniques or fusion of cells beyond the taxonomic family that overcome natural, physiological, reproductive, or recombination barriers. These are not the techniques used in traditional breeding and selection. Living modified organism (LMO) products are defined as processed material that are of living modified organism origin, containing detectable novel combinations of replicable genetic material obtained through the use of modern biotechnology. Some examples of LMOs are genetically modified agricultural crops for increased productivity and pest resistance. Examples of modified crops include tomatoes, cassava, corn, cotton, and soybeans. Living modified organism intended for direct use as food or feed or for processing are agricultural commodities from GM crops. Overall, the term living modified organisms is equivalent to genetically modified organism. The protocol did not make any distinction between these terms and did not use the term genetically modified organism. The protocol applies to the transboundary movement, transit, handling, and use of all living, modified organisms that may adversely affect conservation and the sustainable use of biodiversity. Article 4 of the Protocol, SCBD 2000. The Protocol promotes biosafety by establishing rules and procedures for the safe transfer, handling, and use of LMOs, with specific focus on transboundary movements of LMOs. It features a set of procedures including one for LMOs that are to be intentionally introduced into the environment called the Advance Informed Agreement Procedure, and one for LMOs that are intended to be used directly as food or feed or for processing. Parties to the protocol must ensure that LMOs are handled, packaged, and transported under conditions of safety. Furthermore, the shipment of LMOs subject to transboundary movement must be accompanied by appropriate documentation specifying, among other things, identity of LMOs and contact point for further information. These procedures and requirements are designed to provide importing parties with the necessary information needed for making informed decisions about whether or not to accept LMO imports and for handling them in a safe manner. The party of import makes its decisions in accordance with scientifically sound risk assessments. The protocol sets out principles and methodologies on how to conduct a risk assessment. In case of insufficient relevant scientific information and knowledge, the party of import may use precaution in making their decisions on import. Parties may also take into account, consistent with their international obligations, socio-economic considerations in reaching decisions. On import of LMOs, parties must also adopt measures for managing any risks identified by the risk assessment, and they must take necessary steps in the event of accidental release of LMOs. To facilitate its implementation, the protocol establishes a biosafety clearinghouse for parties to exchange information and contains a number of important provisions, including capacity building, a financial mechanism, compliance procedures, and requirements for public awareness and participation. 1.6 Summary. In this unit, we have studied about the need for environmental law and its evolution. The very significant environmental conferences and their achievements were discussed. Some important international environmental law agreements like CITES, Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety, Stockholm Convention on POPs, Montreal Protocol, Vienna Convention, Rotterdam Convention were discussed. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.